500, 600 million views now. Man, like I really don't enjoy doing this anymore.
Why am I not getting views?
Listen, dude, I'm not a magician. You can make insane amounts of money.
Just improve, improve, improve.
Oh, you will do everything you can to get at 100K. Making money with those kind of videos was so hard.
A Bugatti, Ferrari, and a Lamborghini.
Working with big brands is not fun, man. Of course I'm not getting views. I'm doing the same thing over and over again.
So to start off, state your name, occupation, and home address.
Good show, home address, all right? So my name is Leroy. My last name is Dutch, but I'm gonna have and try, see if you can pronounce it. It's Ter Braak.
Ter Braak?
Good enough, good enough. My occupation is a full-time YouTube nerd, I guess, and my home address is somewhere in the Netherlands, in Europe.
Somewhere in the Netherlands. Okay.
If you do some digging like in my newsletter, you probably find my home address somewhere because of laws or something.
So who are some people that you've worked with?
Dude, a lot. I've been doing this game on and off for I think now, I'm 30 now, so I think like 12 years. So like back in the day, I've worked with a ton of creators that were like relevant back then, that were blowing up back then. I had my own channels. Now I work with like a very different kind of creators. I work with entrepreneurs like Christian from We Are No Code. I work with Daniel Bitten, also known as Dan VSL, the Snapchat god. I work with Chris Takes Off. I worked with some faceless channels that I, of course, like not all of them I can, talk about because some of them are faceless entrepreneurs. But it's like, it's very broad scale of different kind of creators. And that's exactly how I love it. Just not like in one niche. Like I go from golf to no-code tools to travel content all in the same day, man. That's why I love what I do.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really good being well-rounded, like in all the YouTube space, because I know for me, I'm like stuck in like finance mostly. So that's what I know best, but it's great that you're well-rounded. So what are some of the results that you've gotten with some of the people that you've worked with?
I mean, I always think like that most people, especially online, like you're as good as your last result, kinda. Or wait, there's a hair on my camera. It's annoying me. There we go. So the last like big result that I've done is I've worked with Chris Takes Off, like the new travel channel. We kind of blew that up in like 2 weeks to I think 500,000 views or something and 10K subs. That's what I did recently. And before that, man, like I think in total, I actually did the calculation for my personal brand like a few weeks ago, and I think I'm up at like 500, 600 million views now. And those are 90% long form content. And some of that is also like from my own content back in the day when I started on YouTube with my own channel. I had content stolen as well to Facebook that did 90 million views, and we saw exactly $0 from that. That was amazing as well. So I don't even count that kind of stuff where stuff got stolen. But yeah, I think like I've done like 600 million views now, roughly. It's hard to say, but like what stuff that I had my hand in, it's like around 600, I would say. It's probably more, but I don't want to overestimate it.
Yeah, that's amazing though. So tell me a little bit about some of your first channels and how that like what niche were you in? How did that start?
Yeah, so dude, like there were some channels that I started before like I got serious about YouTube, and I'm very happy that those disappeared from YouTube. But I think I started on YouTube I think when I was, I'd say like 14. So I think that was like around 2009 or something. That's when I really like started uploading to YouTube, and I think I've done the same thing that everyone ever that's a guy did, and that's I started with like gameplay. So I made like gameplay videos, with a squeaky voice, like, oh, this is Call of Duty. Like I made that kind of videos. But I would say like our first like real serious channel was with my former business partners that I had a company with for, I would say almost 10 years. And that was called CFX. And we did short films, but with a lot of visual effects in it. So we had like, back in the day, you had guys like Rocket Jump, and also now the guys from Corridor Digital that are still around. Like those were like huge inspirations to us to make videos around like, Battlefield in real life. So we did like Battlefield videos with a ton of like visual effects in it. And that went really, really well pretty fast. I think within like 4 or 5 months, we grew it to like 20,000 subscribers. And back then, that was legit. That meant you were doing something really well. And we had a ton of videos go viral on and off YouTube. So videos that got stolen, that kind of like went on, like, for example, Reddit and like a Dutch news site. We had one video go like all over the world, like to CNN and to like BBC and all that jazz. So it was that was like the real, I would say, like the real start when I started really taking YouTube seriously. And when I was like, okay, I actually want to make this my profession. And we did that for, I think, like seriously for like 2 years. But then we realized, especially back then, making money with those kind of videos was so hard. It was literally like only Rocket Jump and Corridor were making money off of it. And even them, like they were like scraping the barrel to make sure that they had the budgets to make these videos. So we realized like this is just not sustainable. Although we loved it and we love like kind of like translating like weird things of games into real life, back then you couldn't like make that a career. So we kind of like pivoted away from that slowly and started doing a ton of stuff for brands. But that's how we actually started. I see like CFX and the short films we made back then, like I see that as my real start around when I was 17, 18.
Okay. So then when were you like full time, like making like a good living off of YouTube stuff?
Oh, before we get into that, you want to get your views up and you want to get your bread up?
Get your money up, not your funny up.
Well, there's a new business model that I stole from the top creators, the ones that are actually making money, handing it to you directly. I call it the YIPM model, YouTube Info Product Monetization, or just synthesizing. Either way, it's the best way to make money online, not just now, but in the long term. Essentially, you make content about what you love and monetize the attention and audience that you build. I built a free workshop that breaks down how this all works. You can watch after you watch this podcast, of course. The choice of financial freedom is up to you. Links in the description. Now back to the juiciest pod on YouTube.
So to understand like where like how that happened, you kind of need to understand where I come from. So when we started pivoting away from YouTube, we still did YouTube, and we worked with a ton of other creators, helped them with visual effects, with scripts, with hooks, all that kind of stuff. But we didn't do it like as our main income. We started pivoting away and working, because we did like short films around games. We had a lot of publishers that we kind of worked with also on other platforms, and that became kind of our, our job. So YouTube was always like just a hobby on the side that we did. And I've always been in love with YouTube since I was like 13, 14. So I always did YouTube on the side for 10 years while we worked with small clients, but also clients like Disney and Ubisoft and EA Games, et cetera, but after 10 years, I kind of realized working with big brands, it was always like a goal of mine to be like, oh, I want to work with EA and like make a short film for them for a campaign, or, and we did it for Watch Dogs, although that game was a huge letdown in my opinion, but whatever. We made like very cool stuff around it, but I realized when I was like 26, 27, when we had 15 full-time staff and an office and all like the serious grown-up stuff, I was like, working with big brands is not fun, man. Like there's like shareholders and everything that's kind of like creative you can't do, because they're like, that's, we don't know if that works for our investors. So let's keep it safe. What we know. Yeah. So I was like, man, like I really don't enjoy doing this anymore. And I've been I did YouTube like on the side consistently throughout those 10 years. I helped other creator friends that I had go viral. We still made our own viral videos every now and then, but it was just for shits and giggles. We said like, oh, it's whatever. Like, let's see if we can go viral one more time. But then after 10 years, I decided it was, I wanted to go back to YouTube full time. That was when I was 28. So that's 2 years ago. So I sold my shares in the company, actually got pulled into a new opportunity, and I was the CMO and majority shareholder of a startup game development studio for a year and a half. And I absolutely hated that because my mind and my heart was in YouTube. Now, in the meantime, my girlfriend got pregnant. And, that was like a time where I really reflected on myself, like, okay, if my daughter is born, what do I want her to know me as? And I was like, I want her to see, like, if you just follow your passion and you do everything you can make it work. So I did the worst thing that someone who's becoming a parent could do. I burned all my boats and I went full time back to YouTube. But I kind of like I looked at who I am as a person, and I just looked at the playing board that I had in front of me. I was like, okay, Leroy, you're almost 30 now. You know you have ADHD and that you hate doing the same thing over and over again. So starting one channel yourself is probably going to be hell. And I knew like I don't want to be stuck in a niche because it's going to be like, for me with my brain, I hate it. I absolutely despise that. You have a ton of knowledge on YouTube, you know, you've gathered over the past 12 years. Why don't you use it with other channels and do all the channels? So instead of starting like, you know, going back to like one niche and focusing on that and building that up back to like whatever amount of views that you want, why not see if you can help your creative friends but actually make money from it? So that's how around 2 years ago, I'd say like 1.5 years, 2 years ago, that's how I started again. I just help friends with all the knowledge I had and build a portfolio that way, and got word of mouth kind of to do the rest for me. And I had good results. I gave a lot of value to people for free, and that's kind of how the ball got rolling again. And now I make, I would say, like between 10 to 20,000 a month just from clients. And I'm like now really focused on building my personal brand more, you know, like my online presence since the last few months. But yeah, that's where we are now.
Yeah, it's an amazing journey, especially because when you consider the fact like it started all the way, like you said, back in 2009, and 15 years later, come full circle, and you know, now here you are crushing it. So yeah, that's amazing. You mentioned the one channel that you've been public about this a lot on your Twitter too, is the Chris Takes Off channel. So that channel was zero. You said 0 to 10K in like 30 days, right? So
yeah.
What was the strategy behind that? Because that first video, I think, is at like 250,000 views, and then it was like daily uploads for 14 days. Videos were really good. So what was the strategy behind getting them to where to those results?
Yeah, so there were a few things that were really important to both Chris and myself, and that was, one, he didn't have a ton of on-camera experience. So what's the best way to breed that? Do it a lot in a short amount of time, right? So that was one of the things that we really talked about before we started the whole channel, being like, okay, this is like the best proving ground to see if like this is for you and if you love it or not. Because if you don't, like, you're going to find out in 14 days of filming every single day, being in a different country every day. That was one of the reasons why we went for the series. A second reason was we knew that if we would have a repeatable format that we can do for an extended period of time, but also make them in such a way that they could live on their own as individual episodes, like you didn't have to watch the whole thing through, like from day one, we would have the best of both worlds. So we would have a repeatable format, a story structure that would be recognizable to the viewer. Even if they started at day 10, they would still understand, what the days before were. The only difference would be the challenge and, the location where he was. So the reason why we went for that daily series strategy was, to get Chris comfortable on camera and see if he liked it. 2, to have a repeatable format, give the algorithm a lot of data in a short amount of time on like what this channel is going to be about. And 3, really nurture like a core fan base from that first series. Instead of going like the, one video a week upload routine that most channels do in the beginning, we decided, let's get a ton of eyeballs on the channel early and really like have a big bucket of them become core fans. And that's like, we saw that I think like after I would say like after 6 or 7 uploads, it really started to increase and went parabolic, where he's now, and it's crazy for like a 20K sub channel, but like I was with him in Romania 2 weeks ago, I think, and he actually gets recognized in public already. It's insane. But and it really told us like, yeah, we did the right thing, that we really cultivated like a core fan base in those 14 days, because they got a Chris overload. And so it was good on the algorithm side of things, but it was also good on the personal brand side of things, and it got him more comfortable on camera in a short amount of time.
Wow, yeah, that's really good. What about the videos that now and like moving forward as well? Because I think the one was was the treehouse video, I think, or maybe I'm thinking of somebody else.
No, he did a treehouse video, yeah. So now like we are like, There's two ways you can go about this. You can go about the route of like, okay, let's try and make a viral video every week. Or we kind of build up to a point where it's sustainable. Because what a lot of people don't realize with a channel like his, it costs a lot of money to run. You have to travel, you have to go to the place, you have to stay in a place. And in, like, for example, the treehouse video, you know, it's three locations. So it's like, you know, you have to pay for three things. It's a lot of money to actually do a travel channel and do it sustainable. Now the first sponsors are trickling in, and some cool sponsors as well, so they pay nicely. But we kind of went the route for, okay, let's make sure that we really like strengthen the core of your audience right now. Instead of going for the big spectacle, you know, the Mr. Beastie kind of videos like, I spent the time in the biggest treehouse in the world and it has a slide. Like, we can still do that in the future. Let's kind of slowly build up to that point. He still has an underdog position now, and that's a really good position to have. Let's don't worry about getting 100,000 views consistently now. Let's make sure that the core fans, like, they start doing the work for the channel and they start spreading the word instead of like leaning on the algorithm.
Interesting. So you really, really harp on like having a core loyal fan base then.
I mean, of course, it depends on the channel and depends on what you're doing. Like, if you're a faceless entrepreneur, like, fuck that. Like, you want views, you want to print money, right? So I think it really depends on, and that's where I think a strategist can be really, really valuable, is what are your goals? And that's something that I go through with my clients a lot. Like, some clients have a ton of monetary goals. Like, in 3 years, I want to have a Lambo and I want to live there and I want to have, a plastic wife with plastic boobies and plastic. Like, it's okay, but that kind of like shapes the long-term strategy that we go for. You know, being a strategist is not about like, okay, I'm coming in, I wave my wand and now poof, you have 1 million views. It's about like, okay, so what's your mid to long-term plan and how can we set you up for that future? And with Chris, like, he's obsessed with YouTube like I am. And that's why I knew, like, from the beginning, okay, we're going to do this together, because you have the right mindset to actually make this happen. And he wants to do this for the coming 5 years. So with him, we can take a way more easy and slow approach and kind of like ease into this. We don't need to have 100K subs in a month. We just want to make sure that there's a core audience, a few floor that is willing to come back every video. That even if we have a bad week, we know, is it really a bad week? Come on.
Yeah, it'll still be fine. What other monetization strategies you can implement? Because I mean, like you said, it's pretty expensive to do that. So besides sponsors, like obviously you got AdSense, but is there anything else you can add to a travel channel like that?
Of course, I mean, you still have the things like affiliate links and all that kind of good stuff. Like, hey, what camera do I use? You know, like aspiring creators that want to use your stuff. And I think there's like multiple ways, but the biggest way, of course, is sponsorships. And, you know, we're moving into an era where the creator economy is going to be even bigger. And I see it with a lot of, like, you know, let's say airlines, et cetera, already, that are starting to become way more willing to work with creators. I was like, hey, listen, if, Emirates wants to work with Chris, and like, you know, every flight that you do that we can do, we want you on our flight, and you have to pretend that you love us. It's not hard with Emirates because they're pretty good. You know, like, it'd be all of a sudden it's way less expensive to go traveling. And I think, although travel is one of the harder ones to make profitable, I also know from some other travel channels that I've worked with in the past, and friends of mine have worked with, that if you do, for example, a series and it does well, it gets a big US audience, you can make insane amounts of money, or like literally insane amounts of money that that even for faceless entrepreneurs is hard to get. So it's there, but what makes it like such a high entry barrier is the fact that you have to invest yourself so much up front before you get to that point.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to take it back a little bit, because we talked about how you became a strategist and a little bit about, you know, your story growing up with YouTube in a sense. You seem to have, I mean, like, relatively quick success in terms of views. How did you learn YouTube and how to go viral, like, consistently?
I think for me, a huge part of it is that I have 10 years of business experience, like outside of YouTube, and in a space where it's still about making content. We still made content, but we did it for brands, right? But the metrics were the same, and I think, like, I want to preface with this, like, there's no strategist, there's no guru that can promise you views. It's impossible. If they say they can, you need to run. Like, they're frauds, right? I think you can increase your percentage chance by doing it a lot. By just, being on the platform, being obsessed with the platform, but mostly being obsessed with human psychology. Why did this work? Instead of looking and be like, oh, he got 1 million views, I always look at something and be like, but why? Why did he get 1 million views? I want to dissect it. I want to touch it. I want to pull it apart and look through the fabric and be like, oh, okay, I think, because you can never know for sure, but I think this is the reason why. And that kind of came with like 10 plus years of actual business experience. Like, I'm not, and this is no dig to anyone, but I'm not some 20-year-old that, put YouTube strategist in my name and now pretends like I know everything. I still don't know jack shit. But I happen to have 10 plus years of, having millions flow in and out of my businesses and doing YouTube because I love it and being obsessed with the platform. It's kind of sad if you're 30, but I mean, it's what it is, man.
Hey, it's the cool thing nowadays.
Is it? Is it not TikTok yet? I thought it was TikTok.
Yeah, but see, they make no money over there. That's the thing.
Man, I've been seeing some revenue.
Well, TikTok
shop.
TikTok shop's going crazy over there. That is for sure. But the normal TikTok dancers, not so much. But
yeah, but so I just want to like preface that where it's like, of course I share most of my successes because that gives me business, right? I'm not going to, I do share the occasional 5 out of 10 and 7 out of 10 because I want to show like, hey, listen, I'm not a magician. I don't want to set up that expectation because if you do, and that's something that I see a lot of young kids in the space nowadays do, if you do that, you set up the wrong expectation, so you will burn. At some point, you will start burning customers.
Yeah.
So, I try to be as realistic as possible, and yeah, maybe my win rate is a little bit higher than some others, but listen, dude, I'm not a magician. I just happen to love the game and do this game for fun.
Yeah. Getting one out of 10s every time is, sometimes it's feasible, especially if you're on a roll, but to be able to, like you said earlier, wave the magic wand, here's a 1 out of 10, here's a 1 out of 10, to keep that going over and over again, you're gonna have a couple that are like, that then, goes we plan. Like, it happens to even Mr. Beast. So, I mean, it's going to happen to everybody else too. So,
absolutely, man.
How would you recommend somebody learn YouTube in today's world, I guess you could say? What's the best way to go about learning YouTube?
I think, so first off, by doing. Like, there's a lot of mental masturbation going on, I feel like, nowadays, where it's like, okay, I'm going to learn everything I can from, all the big people in the space, and I'm going to consume all the information. But at some point, you need to start just doing, right? Like, you can read so many fitness books. I mean, like, easy for me to say with my double chin, but I mean, there's like, you can read so many books about something before you actually have to start taking action. And I think the best way to learn is just do. Like, literally just start, upload videos. Don't try to make them perfect. Don't try to make them the best they can be, but learn. Like, upload something and, get data. And instead of asking, like, what would happen if I would do that? No, do it and be like, hey, my impression's flatlined. Why could it be? Let me write down 3 potential reasons why I think it would be. The more you do that, the closer you get to the truth. That's it. This is a game of reps, not, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And if you do consume from people, make sure that you do a little bit of digging into who you're consuming content from. There's a ton of people on all platforms, Twitter, whatever, Reddit, that claim they are experts, or YouTube even. Are they? Not all of them. I can give you a list of people who I know are, but I can also give you a longer list of people who pretend they know everything, but they just regurgitate information that's already out there, right? So, ultimately, the biggest thing you can do is just do it. Just upload. And it's such a cliche, but just upload and try and fix something in every video.
Yeah. I'm of the mindset of, like, especially now, because when I've been doing YouTube for a long time, but I haven't taken I started taking it seriously in the past couple of years. But for a while, I was just uploading, gaming videos, the same ones, over and over and over again, and I wasn't improving. I was just doing the same thing, and I was wondering why am I not getting views? Well, I didn't improve. So, and I didn't do a ton of studying of YouTube and understanding everything. So, to piggyback on what you said, I think just trying to get 1% better with every video. It's just improve, and I mean sometimes you'll take a step backwards. It's okay. Next one, make it even better. So, like you said, it's a marathon. It's a journey to get to the overnight success. It's going to be here and then one time it's going to go straight up. So that's how I look at it anyway.
Absolutely. And I think what you said is really valuable. And that's where, the difference is being made between a YouTube, hiring a YouTube strategist and just an expensive idea generator in the form of a human. It's the experience. If you didn't do that and didn't realize later that, of course I'm not getting views, I'm doing the same thing over and over again. That's the literal definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, right? And you got that from experience. And that is what, creators need to understand. If you hire the right strategist, you're shortcutting for experience. You're not shortcutting for viral videos. That's a fun byproduct. But ultimately, you get a second brain that has a little bit more wrinkles than yours in the sense of YouTube. That's it. And that's, something that I think still a lot of people kind of misconstrue, where it's YouTube strategist just helps you go viral. No, a YouTube strategist helps you sometimes, point at the mirror and be like, look at what you're doing. You're doing it again. Or sometimes be like, we need to change this hook, or we need to change this because of X, Y, and Z. I think that's a very important distinction to make.
Yeah, 100%. That was a great way to put that. What does a typical day-to-day look like for YouTube strategists?
Sad. I just sit in this bunker and just type and be on meetings. Now, I actually, it's funny you asked that, because in the beginning when I went full time again on YouTube, I really had to change my life, because I always had an office that I went to. I had staff, et cetera, and all of a sudden, all of that was gone. In my second business, we raised 2 million, scaled up to 40 plus employees. We had a huge operation going, and then all of a sudden, I was at home. I was just sitting here. I was like, okay. But then I had days where it was Wednesday, and I realized I don't think I've gone outside yet this week. I probably need to go outside at some point. So that in the beginning, it was really literally just me sitting here and just grinding and doing everything I can to make this a profitable endeavor. But nowadays, I'd say my day to day is really it's similar every day, but it's different. I just, when I wake up, I get my daughter ready, take her to daycare. And when my girlfriend and my daughter are out of the house, I normally start with simply working out. That's what I do first. I do a little bit of yoga now because I'm 30. It's important. When you're 30, you need to think about your joints. Children, believe me, everything starts fucking hurting. And after that, the biggest thing that I do in the morning, because I'm in the Netherlands, most of my clients are in the US. So my mornings are pretty quiet mostly. My day starts late. So what I try to do every morning is write. So I either write for my newsletter, or I write for my social content that I want to put out. I write threads, I do research for threads, all that kind of stuff. And then during the afternoon, normally I have 1 to 2 to 3 calls at least in a day with different clients. And sometimes it's simply an ideation session of an hour where we just ideate, because ideation is king. Remember that for everyone watching and listening. And sometimes it's literally feedback, it's async work, looking at edits, et cetera. It's a lot of time behind the computer here, or with my MacBook if I'm traveling. But besides that, I'm pretty boring, man. I just do my work. I try to work out every day, and I play with my daughter. That's about it. I don't care about anything else. I just this year is the year where I want to take over. So just have to be head down and work.
That's good, man. It seems especially now that you're a parent, you're having a fairly fulfilled life and you're enjoying it. So that's amazing, man. If you were to start from nothing, this is a little cliche question, but if you wanted to just like go straight for monetary value, what would you do to get to like 100,000 subscribers? Like if you had to, just like you're dying in a week unless you get 100,000 subscribers.
Okay, and I can't spend money.
Yeah.
I think I would go back to what I know, and that is like just look at a market that I know I can penetrate easily, and that doesn't cost me any money. So that would probably be something like either Talking Head or gaming, because I have a gaming setup here, and just use the knowledge and experience I have to make videos that, you know, generate clicks that I know will be good videos. I think if you really have to, and this is something that my business mentor told me early on in when I had my first business, he was like, if I come to you and I ask you for 100K, you know, I was like, hey, you know, can I get 100K? Your reaction would probably be like, I don't have 100K. What the fuck do you mean? But if I come into your home and I put a gun against your mother's head and I said, I need $100,000 in 24 hours, oh, you will do everything you can to get that 100K. You will call people that you wouldn't call, you know, in the first situation that I ask you. And I think the same goes to here, where like, if you really have to make 100K, I would just literally sit here day and night, 24/7, just uploading videos, just ideating concepts constantly. I would do gaming because I don't have to leave my house. I don't have to have an editor. I would just make amazing concepts time and time again. Just don't sleep. I think I can scale it to 100K then pretty easily. I don't want to, but if I have to, that would be my go-to, 100%.
Okay, gotcha. Good answer.
What would you do?
Well, what I do, see, it depends. If I give myself a time frame of a week, I don't know, honestly. If I had a little more time, I asked the same question with Lyndon actually, and we were going over this, and I was thinking I would try to do it in like 1 or 2 videos, and it would be, if I had like a lot of money, it was like unlimited budget, I would get a Bugatti, Ferrari, and a Lamborghini, and I would test them against each other.
I like that. I think CarWow did it. I actually think they did that video. I should look up what that video did. I think he did that exact setup.
I didn't realize that. Let me look. Bugatti.
So let me see.
Ferrari.
Let me see if I can find this. I watch too much YouTube, man. Like, I think like when people tell me stories, I'm like, oh, hey, I think I've seen that video. Oh no, he did it with a Bugatti, but with different cars. He did it like with a Bugatti Chiron versus an F1 car and some other stuff. But I understand that choice. I definitely do. If I would have unlimited budget, I would probably just go into a niche that I really love and just make everything 3D unnecessarily. Everything 3D. Kind of like the Lemino route, where it's just like very high production value. This is going to be hard in gaming, but you know, I know that I can just like really like head down and make like 10 videos in a day if I'd really want to. So couldn't do that with a Bugatti, I think.
No.
I hope.
No, that would be a Mr. Beast-ish type video.
Yeah, no, I mean, but that's also a good strategy, I think. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd be interested to test that out, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
It was actually, it's funny because there was at some point kind of like talks behind the scenes between some people that I was within to have like almost like a guru face-off where we all start a channel with the same budget and we'll see, like, we wanted to see like who got furthest, but it kind of like bled out because like everyone was very busy, and it became a watered down version, and there were people in that competition I was like, I'm not gonna compete with, you know, like those people like have no name. I want to have like the top of the game, like those people I want to compete with just for the shits and giggles. But there was actually like some discussion about that. We should probably reinvigorate that. I talked about it with Noah Morris a little bit, and I think with Nate Wealth. I don't know if I talked about it with Lyndon, but you know, probably like in the future we could do some guru face off. Would be fun. It's like X Games but for gurus.
That would be fun. Do a full video on it. It's like the Guru Games.
5 gurus, 1 channel.
Speaking of Lyndon, so you're partnering with Fed, probably mispronouncing his name, but to build a channel, to build a channel in public, how come when you got like so many other things going on? What's the benefit for you in Fed?
Okay, so there's a few reasons why I said yes to that. So I always want to have 2 or 3 faceless channels that are kind of mine, like on the side. That's something that I always wanted, just to kind of like also be able to say like, you know, I'm not just doing client channels. It's the same reason why I decided to do Chris Takes Off, because, you know, a lot of creators say like, oh, those strategists, you don't know how effective they are because they work with big creators. Okay, let me do it from zero then. You know, like we have that out of the window. And same goes with faceless channels. So Fed and I got to speak, I think like a few months ago for the first time, and we kind of hit it off. Like we're similar. Like he's also like pretty much head down and works very hard, is obsessed with YouTube. And he came up to me with the idea, and I was like, dude, that sounds like so much fun. It's going to be really hard because, if a lot of people have interest in what we're doing, it's going to be hard to blow up that channel soon. But I don't know. It seemed to me like it was the perfect extension of my personal brand. You know, Fed is like, he's, in my opinion, a legend in the YouTube guru space. And like his Twitter numbers reflect that. So for me, it was like it was a fun challenge to do with a friend. And like I said, like I can never do enough YouTube. So as long as it's not, you know, shiny opportunity syndrome, and it's actually something that will either further my personal brand or put more money in my pockets, or preferably both, and that is, you know, this of course as well, then I do it. So that's why I decided to do it with Fed, and that's why I decided to fly to Cyprus a few weeks ago to meet him and my other client, Daniel. And yeah, we're well underway now with High Stakes. It's a rough start. We knew that was going to happen because we have, you know, completely different viewer profiles watching the video. So we knew the algorithm would have trouble finding an audience, but dude, sooner rather or later, it's going to be at 10K a month.
So how many? I haven't read the newsletter yet. How's that doing? Like you said, it's a little rough. Like what's it at right now? How's it going?
Oh, it's really rough. But so you have to understand first. So Fed does all the updates through his email list, and he got like 5,000 or 6,000 signups to that email list when he since he announced it. It's like insanely high for the amount of followers I have. It's like, I think it's like 50% of his followers that signed up. And before we even uploaded the first video, we had 600 something subscribers. So that we had a call back then, and I was like, oh, this is going to be rough because it's going to be all over the place. The algorithm is going to be confused for a solid few months before it's like, okay, I think I kind of know who wants to watch this now. So it's like very, like, I think we just uploaded the 3rd video, I think, or the 4th. I'm bad at counting. Wait, let me actually check. But yeah, I mean, it's like a few thousand views a video. It's just not at that point yet, but we knew that was going to happen, and we can really see it as well in the impressions chart. It's like very erratic. Like it goes up and then it flat lines, and then it goes up and then flat lines and then up. It's very erratic still. So we like the first video now is at 4K views, and the second video is at 3.1K. We just kind of have to work through that initial email list blast that is, you know, polluting the data.
I'm curious, is the average view duration skewed because of the people just like looking it up on, you know, or subscribing from the newsletter? Or is that
I
been an issue
think so,
too?
yeah. Let me actually, I can check that. I'll look at the first video because I think that's the best example. Without giving away too much, of course, because you have to, you know, subscribe to the email list if you want to get the full picture. So the first video's AVD is at it's like the average percentage viewed is 21%, so it's low. So it's low for a video that is a documentary. But that's, you know, like the problem with an email list where people, you know, subscribe to see like how we scale it to a certain monetary value. They're gonna skim through the video. They want to see like, okay, what are they doing? What can I copy? You know, and we anticipated that was gonna happen. So, you know, it's just gonna take longer. we won't give up before it happens, but it's just going to take longer than, with a channel that you can actually build first and then you can brag about like, oh, we built this to 10K. No, you're going to see the trials and tribulations now, and it's the most transparent way to do it, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, once that does pop off, like I think it's going to be huge social proof. Like, I mean, it's a flex to be like, we did this while people were copying us, while people were like messing with our stuff. Like that's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah, so like I said as well, like for me it feels like we are, a boxer tying both of our hands behind our back and going into a spar. Like that's how it feels like actually building this channel, where it's like everyone gets to punch at us and there's not really a way for us to defend it. But like you said, like it's also like once we break through that and we actually get to the real boxing part, it's gonna be another like good social proof for both Fed and myself, of course. So
yeah.
That's a nice byproduct, definitely.
Now I picked up on this earlier. You mentioned Daniel Bitten. You said he's your client actually. Is that for his personal channel?
Yeah.
The Dan VSL channel.
Yeah, he actually renamed it now to Daniel Bitten, to his full name. It's funny, I said it in Cyprus. I was like, why not your name? Like, you have a good name, like a recognizable name. And he was like, oh, I like Dan VSL. And then Jordan Welch told him the same thing. And he texted me, I changed it. Jordan said I should change it. I was like, I said the same thing, Daniel. But, like, that's Daniel. I'm kind of like the paid big brother every now and then.
Gotcha. Would you be okay to share a little bit of the strategy behind his channel going forward?
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, it's pretty straightforward in the sense that, Daniel still has like a very small channel regarding data. He doesn't have a ton of videos. And Daniel really wanted to take the quality route and do like 1 to 2 uploads max a month. And they had to be viral bangers. And I kind of like pushed against that and said like, I want to get data. I want to get more videos up. We can still ideate like good ideas, but I think for you and for your personal brand, it's going to be way more valuable to have a ton of videos in the bank that are still high quality, that are still good ideas. But like we're not going to put the pressure on ourselves where it's like, oh, every video has to be 1 million plus. And that's hard in finance as is. It's even harder if you have such a small channel and, not a lot of videos on it. So the strategy for now is pretty straightforward. I want to get data. So we have like a ton of ideas in the bank that we are working on right now. Some take a little bit longer to film. Others are just sit down videos. And we just want to upload videos and see what does your audience resonate with? What are going to be the audience growers? And just double down on the signals that the channel gives us. And that's ultimately the most straightforward way to grow, especially it's easier for Daniel, who has, of course, like a lot of income streams and makes a lot of money for someone his age. It's insane. Like he's an insane unicorn in that sense, of course. Like people need to understand that he's not the norm. But if you have that luxury to make very good videos at a loss for some time, yeah, I mean, that's my preferred method, of course, of being like, let's get data. And once we have data and we see that little lead, let's just follow that lead and see where it takes us.
What data is there specific metrics you're looking at? What does that look like? All that data stuff.
Ultimately, like the most important metric I look at, it's not CTR, it's not AVD, it's impressions.
Just impressions.
It's literally impressions, because impressions tells a story. If you get a video that has 160% more impressions than the 5 videos before that, you have a topic where YouTube thinks it's like, hey, I think there's a lot of people interested in this. We can miss the mark with how we package it, and that influences how many people actually watch it. But impressions and views, that are the most important metrics. And like CTR, yes, is important, but CTR is important on a way longer time scale, not in the first weeks. If you don't have a big core audience yet. If you have a core audience in the first hours, it will tell you if your core likes it and if your casual audience likes it. But that's it. Ultimately, I look right now in the stage where Daniel's channel is at. I just want to see impressions. And if I see high impressions, for me, that's a lead to follow, down a rabbit hole. Be like, hey, how can we respin this and do that same amount of impressions or more again and see if we can convert them better?
That's good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. That's good. At least that makes sense to me. Hopefully everybody else gets that. I want to bring it back to the newsletter, because you have your own newsletter.
Yeah.
How powerful is that free newsletter? Like, are you able to make good money off of it? And then, like, audience wise, like, what's the size of it? And
Oh no! Like for me, I make zero money out of it.
Zero money
because it's still very small. I would say like I started taking it seriously like together with my Twitter. To be honest, like I would say like a month and a half, 2 months ago, and it's like at 450 subscribers now or something, or 500 subscribers. It's getting me nothing, but I just know from experience that if I keep going, and you know, since like the last 2 weeks that I really doubled down on Twitter and giving value, I see it go up like significantly faster. Owning an audience is very, very powerful, and owning an audience off platform. So, you know, anything can happen to Twitter, anything can happen to any other platform, but my email list I will always have, right? So, for me that's really a long-term play, and it just fits my content model really well, where the newsletter is, you know, my core. And from the newsletter, I make threads. I make, you know, like just simple Twitter posts. I make a LinkedIn post, whatever. So it really functions for me as like the hub of where my ideas are born, and people can enjoy it. So far, I've got a lot of good feedback on my newsletter. And this week, coming Monday, I'm dropping one where I go deeper into Chris Takes Off strategy. If you already watched this podcast, you don't really have to read that newsletter, but still a lot of other newsletters that are fun. But yeah, it's just like a chance for me to go more in depth with the people who really want to be there.
Yeah, people really want to show up and continue to learn. That's good. I dug a little bit into some of your social links, and I saw you have an accelerator. What's that all about? What does that look like? Take me through the process of if I was gonna apply and be in your accelerator.
Welcome to the YouTube. No, I'm not kidding. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. Where you know, a lot of creators that I've worked with in the past did one-off calls. Like they were like, okay, let's do a 60-minute call, and you give me all these pointers, and then you know I go on my merry way. So to negate that, because at some point I was like, you know, I'm not a magician. Like I can give you like the obvious feedback that I see, like the obvious points that you like, hey, you know, judging by your channel or by your data, you should do more of this. But ultimately, to make like a bigger difference and to actually like create meaningful results, I needed more time. So what I do with the people that I work with on the accelerator basis is I work with them for at least 3 months. And within those 3 months, like there is variations we can do in the amount of hours, but that is when I can really say like, listen, in 3 months, we can change something meaningful. So it's a private accelerator. It's not like it's with other clients in there as well. For that, we have ideation class, and there's like more of a community thing. But ultimately, the most important thing with the accelerator is that I get more time with the creator, and the creator gets more out of me.
That's good. So I'm going to switch subjects a little bit here, but what?
Yeah, do.
What's the next level for YouTube for you, and also for business as well? Maybe like the business behind what you're doing right now as a strategist, and then YouTube, just like as far as getting views and getting clients results, and then maybe even you know, some of your personal channels.
I'm gonna try and say this bit without trying to sound like a dick, because I like to see myself as not actually a dick and a pretty nice guy. But every time so far when I went into business and you know really dedicated myself to something, I always looked at, okay, I sussed out the playing field. I was like, okay, who are the biggest in this space and what do they do? And so of course, like you have guys like Patty, you know, who are like externally seen as the biggest, right? I mean, ultimately, once you get to the top 5% of strategists or consultants, whatever you want to call them, you're not going to get a lot of different value from everyone. They just kind of say the same thing, but in their own words, right? Like that is how the top of the playing field looks like. And back when I decided to take this full time while having a newborn baby, I knew like, okay, I need to not just look at this as a passion and look at it as something that pays my mortgage and pays for my, you know, child's tuition in the future. So I looked at, you know, who were the big dogs in my space, and I said, like, okay, what are they making? What are they doing? I want to top that. Within 5 years, I want to be above that number that they are currently at when I'm looking at it. So for me, that is literally my goals for the future. I want to be able to say that. And lately, I've been on a binge a bit. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but Justin Welsh.
Yeah.
I've been binging his story a lot and podcast that he's in, and it's just it baffles me that man does over $300,000 a month as a solopreneur just on his own from just writing content, not even YouTube videos. So that really opened my eyes that I was like, I think I can do something similar within 5 years if I just commit to it. If I stay, to my core, and that is what I know, that is YouTube, that is, how to persuade people to watch something or read something. That's the goal. I want to optimize my future in that sense, where it's like I don't have to work 50 hours a week. I get to work with a few cool clients that I love working with that I know can be my next success story, because that's ultimately what I filter on right now. I don't just work with everyone. I take a 10-minute intro call, and if I don't have the feeling that they could be my next success story, I don't take them on. And that's what I want to do more of. And then the money will follow. That's always been the case with me and in my businesses as well, if I just follow my gut. So so I would say like monetary, my next goal would be $50K a month, and doing that like while providing as much value as I can. And everything after that is a nice bonus, man. I don't like, I've had a lot of money come in every month when I was, still in my last business. Money doesn't buy happiness, like literally it doesn't. It buys freedom of time and place. But for me, like I'm already doing my passion. So it's like, if I can get paid, it's nice. If you don't pay me, I'll find another way to monetize it.
Yeah, that's good.
What's your goal with this podcast?
My goal with this podcast?
Let's manifest a little bit here from your end then.
Shoot. Goal with the podcast.
On call, on air. Like this is recorded. Let's go.
I think the goal of the podcast is really to become you can't top Colin and Samir, but they do multiple like different types of creators. I really want to focus on like the strategy in the business behind YouTube, and then also mix in some creators. So I think I want to I think there's a gap in the market for that right now, and I think that should be able to take me to decent heights. I mean, I'm not expecting anything crazy, but I just want to provide, bring on a ton of people, bring in a lot of takes, and provide a lot of value through the podcast, through that form. And I will say that I will end up pushing a product of mine that I'm building in the future, but won't get into that too much yet.
Just being smart, man.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on YouTube Shorts?
I actually just wrote a thread about this. Okay, I'm biased because 90% of my success has come from long form, right? So it's like asking a Ferrari driver what he thinks of Lamborghini. It's like, it's maybe unfair to ask me, but what I think of shorts is, if you are predominantly a long form channel and you don't sell something on the back end, I don't really see the benefit of doing shorts. It just inflates your sub count, and there's not a lot of mix between long form and short form viewers, and vice versa. For example, if you're someone like Daniel, who's trying to really build a facial recognition, like a face brand, definitely shorts can help. It's easy to push like a lot of content in a short amount of time. If you are Sam Sulek, like for Sam Sulek, a lot of his growth, can be contributed to the fact that he was like shared on TikTok a lot, like clips of his, and it was a really sound strategy. Same goes for Andrew Tate, like all of his short clips made him the most Googled man. So I think there's merit to use it if the goal aligns with it. If you are, going to start on YouTube being like, okay, I want to make money, then please don't touch shorts. Just focus on, becoming a good storyteller in long form. I think there's a place and time for it, but, me personally, I just don't get to work with shorts a lot. So, I've heard you want to have some people on who are more, into shorts. I'd love to be proven wrong. I can't wait for Fit Summit. I'm going to talk to all the shorts creators, be like, say why I'm wrong about shorts, and then we'll see.
Were you at Fit Summit this past October?
I couldn't, dude. I had no time. I really wanted to. I was supposed to go with Chris Takes Off with him, but I had the kid, I needed to do business. Like I was like literally in monk mode then. I was like, there's no way that I can get out of monk mode to go to Fit Summit. But this year I'm going. I'm actually planning to go to the US earlier as well, just to work there for a month because time zones are not my friend ever since I started this. So I'll be there for sure.
Awesome. I look forward to seeing you there because I went for my first time in this past October. So
How did you like it?
I liked it. There was the talks were okay. I was a little disappointed in that, but there's a lot of people to meet and talk to. I met some people I knew. I think for me, because I'm more naturally like introverted, so it's hard for me to like go talk to people, you know. So that was a little bit difficult, but it was still a good time.
I think that is something that a lot of people maybe like I don't know if it's hopeful thinking or something, but you know, if you go to a talk of like Fit Summit, etc., at some point you know everything, right? It's not like, you know, you're gonna hear something that is gonna transform your life. It's like, oh, I've never thought about like the days of unlisted video tricks and then making them go viral. Like those days are far gone, right? That was like backdoor secret stuff that you wanted to know about. And I think nowadays, like people always search for that thing around the corner, you know, that secret. And I see those talks at Fit Summit at like, once you know, I always go back to the fitness example because it's such an easy example to translate. Like once you understand that less calories in that then go out means you lose weight, like there's not a lot of like stuff you need to learn after that. You know what you need to do. You're just doing mental masturbation if you do anything after that to make you feel like you're doing better or doing more. And I think the same happens with YouTube. Like if you go to like those kind of, if you watch a Paddy Galloway podcast, for example, or like a Mr. Beast podcast, for example, like those kind of guys who are on the top of their, you know, their specific respective world, at some point you've heard it all. Now it's just about taking action. And I kind of see like places like Fit Summit as well. Like it's a place to get inspired. It's not a place to like learn massive new things, being like, oh, you know, this is going to transform my business. No, you're going to have a moment to sit down and listen to a creator or a strategist and be like, damn, man, good for you. Awesome.
Yeah.
Now let's push myself harder again.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think even with some of these talks, what I realized was you can still extract a couple things, you know, maybe something was said in a new way and maybe it sheds some light on something that just clicks in your brain. Because there were a few things, like even the Paddy Galloway had a really good talk. I think that one was my favorite. And a lot of his stuff is, you know, the same. He harps on a lot of the same stuff, but sometimes he says it in a little different way and it starts to click a little bit. So I think there are times, you know, where it's like, okay, this talk was like, it was good. And then, you know, it wasn't like spectacular, especially once you get to, like you said, a certain level. But there's always something you can take away and take action on. I think that's something too I learned when I went to another event was like, especially if you're like newer to going to one of these things, like you don't know everything, like about business or about YouTube. Like you go to these things, you get some of the information and you don't want to overload yourself with the information. You want to take away like 2-3 things. Okay, let me take these 3 things and then take action on those and worry about those other things later. I think that's something too for beginners is like, you don't need to try to do everything at once. It's just take a few things away and build off of that.
Absolutely, that's it. You know, you can bring it back to the fitness example. Like, dude, just go, just do it. Like proper form, you will learn by just hurting yourself. You will learn like, hey, I probably do this wrong, or you know, you'll have a friend that after 5 times of going to the gym, they'll be like, maybe you want to do your squat a little bit less like this and more like that. You know, that stuff comes. Like you can't learn everything in a day and implement it in a day. It's impossible. Like I still feel like a complete beginner on YouTube 9 out of 10 times when I work with a client. I'm like, I get massive imposter syndrome, and I've been doing this for like 12 years on and off, and I still feel sometimes like, oh man, like why is he paying me for this? I don't feel confident right now. I still have those days. I think it's normal to have days where you doubt yourself. It's like, is this you know, something that I can still do in 5 years, or is this all just a flash in the pan? I've had this in my other businesses as well, with millions flowing in and out. Like, is this like something that will stop? You know, and once people get to a point where they feel they know everything, that's when you come crashing down, I feel like.
Yeah, always improving as much as possible is huge. What's your best YouTube advice in roughly one sentence?
Spend more time on ideas.
Ideas. You're part of the ideation class. What is that? I believe it's like once a week, right? That you do calls with everybody.
Yeah, so once a week we have a Q&A, and every now and then we have a guest speaker. We had Lyndon on, for example, and yeah, it's ultimately like Leander is the owner of it. He's the owner of Ideation Class and Justical, the YouTube channel. I just because I have 10 years of business experience, I helped him set it up. I helped him set up Ideation Class, make sure that it was sound, the strategy behind it was sound. I still help him pretty much weekly. We're now working on the course that is going to be included in Ideation Class at some point. So I literally today we've worked together in a Starbucks, just writing away. Had a ton of fun working with him again. But ultimately it's his project. I'll probably come back as a shareholder at some point, but I just wanted to help him get it on its feet and just okay, go make money now. And he's doing amazing. The amount of results of actual people in the community coming out of it with actual results is really, really insane. I'm really proud of him for that. But I stand by the product 1000% simply because I think the basis of every viral video is a very, very good idea. And to get a very good idea, you need to ideate at least 50% of the time that you spend on YouTube.
Ooh, it's a lot of time. How many ideas do you say you would come up with before picking just one? For every video you make, how many ideas do you come up with?
I think if an average over all client channels?
Sure.
I think it was more a year ago, but now I would say 40 to 50 before I commit to one. But it depends a little bit on the client as well. It depends on the market they're in, because some markets there's just way more you can do. So there's the ideas just flow into me like a faucet, and you just start typing and you don't stop anymore. But also there's also niches that are working that I where I feel coming up with 20 ideas is it feels like an hour of work. So it depends a little bit on the market. But I'd say I try to at least in a week have 100 ideas pass through my brain every week. And then what I do with clients is we have a list of at least 100 ideas, and we purge a few of those every week. We add new ones onto them, and then sometimes you'll have an idea. This is probably something that's familiar to you when people listening or watching, where you write down an idea, oh, this is gonna be a banger. This is gonna go viral.
This is the
and
one.
You sleep, and the next day you look at that idea was I drunk? What was I thinking? This is not a good idea. And then it's just like a night's sleep, and you look at the same idea, it's this is not a good idea. And that's when you have creators, beginner creators, they think for 30 minutes, and then they decide on a video, and then at the end the video is uploaded, it didn't get me 1 million views. Why not? Because you're competing with people who come up with 100 ideas a week. That's why you're not going viral. You're not doing the reps that you need to do.
Oh yeah. What do you do for ideation? What does that look like?
Dude, I do a lot for ideation. So I really love, I don't want to shill it constantly, but I am shilling it constantly because I actually love it. I use 1 of 10 a lot. I think I use 1 of 10 for an hour a day, even outside of clients, because I just want to keep up to date with ooh, I've seen that concept yesterday as well. Let me bookmark it, or I'm going to track that. I want to see trends before they start forming. So I use it a lot to kind of go through, and then I cross-reference it with actual YouTube and try and see patterns and connect dots. Doing that every day for an hour really helps with the ideation with clients, because with some clients I'm oh, we can transfer this to his market. I've done this in golf where it was a concept that came from a gaming channel that I found. I was oh, if we spin this, we can do this with a golf video. And it was new because it wasn't done in the golf market before, so I knew it was going to be good. Because human psychology doesn't change from someone who likes gaming to someone who likes watching golf. It's just, adapting the ideas. So I love looking outside of someone's market and adapting ideas and taking it to their market. I think that is, for me personally, that has brought the best results over the past years. I don't really look in the niche. Like if I work in finance, I don't look at what other finance channels do, because you'll get more like niche bias, I would almost say. It's like you try to do the same thing and you get diminishing returns.
Yeah, that's good. What filters do you run through when you like pick an idea? You're like, okay, this one has, you know, do you ask friends? Do you have like these certain filters? What do you do?
It depends a little bit. Sometimes I use like my network, so my friends will like, I have this idea. What do you think of this? Like sometimes when you have like that idea, and that idea is like, I'm not sure if this is a genius or absolutely stupid. You know, like there's no in between. You're like, is this dumb or is this great? So sometimes I use friends, but with every client I use the same kind of filter with one variable. So the first box that I want to check always is, for example, I do this with Chris as well. It's like, okay, does this fit like the core audience that we've already built? So like, are they gonna love this? Then like, does it fit, you know, the more casual viewer that like pop in, like, oh, they watch like one video a month. Would they fuck with this idea? And then like, does this have potential to break out of that core, or are we going too niche now into what our little culture likes? So if those 3 boxes are checked, then I feel like, okay, we filtered it right. Now with personality channels, another important thing that I add onto that filter is, does this excite you? It's not bad to make, you know, like a video every once in a while that, you know, doesn't really excite you, but you know, like, this is probably going to do good numbers, whatever, I'll do it. But if you do that too much, you do too much of that, then that's how you get creative burnout. You know, that's how your clients burn out and say like, fuck this, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm done with this channel. Now, if you're a faceless channel and you just want to make as much money as possible, then, you know, that fun filter kind of like fades off. It's like, whatever, let's just make this. The team will make it. But I think that is the same filter that I use every time. And if I have an idea that I'm not sure if it's genius or absolutely stupid, I will ask literally my friends. I will ask Leander. Sometimes I even texted Lyndon for something like, is this a good idea? What do you think? But I'm a strong believer in trusting your gut and not taking on too many opinions in that sense, because, you know, you can ask 10 people if they like a red wall, and there's always going to be one that's going to say like, I hate that wall. And it's psychology to, you know, like it's human psychology that you kind of like take that negative opinion on more value. I mean, like, oh, but he hated it. Oh, it's probably a bad idea.
That's good. Well, that's pretty much all I have for you. Once again, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. And I can keep going on. I love talking YouTube, and you're so smart, know so much. It's amazing to have this conversation. But thank you, appreciate it.
No, thank you, man. Thank you for having me on. It was like truly an honor, and I can't wait to see how much fucking value you're gonna give by starting this podcast, man. Thank you so much.